Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kamel Greene, founder and CEO of Poly Platform. And today, Thursday Thoughts, as you all know, I have my good friend, Clark Cahoon, over innovation and technology for Salt Lake City. Clark, tell us about yourself.
Oh, man. Let's see here. I'll just take it back to the beginning. Born in Canada,
Okay.
raised in Southern California, moved to Salt Lake City in 2012 after a 7-year stint in Hawaii, and went to school and worked there for a while. And somehow got caught up in and involved in kind of government work after about a year of being in Utah. And it's been actually kind of fun. I get to kind of work in a cool space within government that is a little different than what you typically think.
Yeah, no, and that's what I want to get into a little bit because typically when you hear government, a lot of people aren't saying that's pretty cool. That's pretty fun.
I know I wouldn't.
Yeah, right. And so can you tell us a little bit about, I guess from the early stages, what was the first capacities in which you were working in within the governmental realm?
Sure. Yeah, in 2013, I got a job working at the Governor's Office of Economic Development
Okay.
on their international trade diplomacy team. And then I transferred from there over to World Trade Center Utah, which is an organization that works really closely with GoEd, is how we refer to it. And at World Trade Center Utah, I started doing kind of basic trade services. So working with small businesses, doing market assessments for them, and kind of basic trade consulting, helping them get connected to resources if they wanted to do international business. And then from there, I was asked to go back to the Governor's Office of Economic Development and manage a technology grant program. And that's kind of where the technology kind of route went.
Yeah.
The grant program provided non-dilutive funding to early stage companies. And it was really fun because I got to kind of go over and look at a bunch of different business plans, work with a really incredible review committee, and a process that, when it comes to government grants, it was actually a pretty cool process because it was more in line with, working with venture capitalists and seed investors to identify which companies we wanted to provide some investment in, which companies we thought could provide pretty solid economic impact in the state.
Okay.
And then from there, was solely focused on the life science industry.
Gotcha.
So stayed at GoEd, focused just on biotech, and then it was just a little over a year ago I moved over to Mayor Mendenhall's administration, working in her economic development office.
Got you. Well, one, that's super cool. And that's actually when we met, I think in 2018,
Yeah.
when you were working at GoEd. But you mentioned biotech, and not a lot of people know what biotech is. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So life sciences, biotech, you can kind of use them interchangeably. In Utah, it's mostly been known as like medical device manufacturing. It's kind of what solidifies this industry here. The thing that's unique about life sciences in Utah is that it's actually a pretty diverse industry in a state where there's a lot of different industries. We actually are known for being a really diverse economic state. So with biotech, it's diagnostics, it's therapeutics, it's medical devices, and then we're seeing a lot of growth too with kind of digital health overlaying into those kind of different sections and parts of the industry. And so I'm kind of looking at it as healthcare innovation because there's also a lot of innovation happening within the healthcare providers here in Utah.
Okay.
But life sciences is that's what I'm focused on.
Awesome. Wow. Well, that's super cool. This is Thursday Thoughts, and so it's all about legitimacy. It's all about engagement. And so you're originally born in Canada. What brings you to Utah besides kind of, I get kind of just the transition. You were at, BYU Hawaii.
I was.
And so why are you still here? Like, what is keeping you still here in good old Utah? Utah is awesome. A lot of people don't know about it. Its awesomeness. I think
people
Utah
are becoming
cool.
to know about it.
Exactly. But what keeps you here?
Yeah. So I was kind of a snobby California kid who looked at Utah as kind of like this backwards and weird place. And back in the 90s, there were some pretty big cultural differences between the two states. But I never thought that I would end up here. And after being in Hawaii and kind of feeling like I needed to kind of find a new place to kind of set up shop, I had family that were here. I had friends that I've grown up with that were in Utah. And it was just a perfect mix of like being uncomfortable, like, oh, this is like a new place. I never thought I'd move to Utah.
Right.
And then also a mix of like, oh, I've got some people here and had a job opportunity. There were some friends that I grew up with that had a company. So I did that for the first year I came here. And then once I moved over to government, I didn't go to school here. I didn't grow up here, so I didn't have a network. But I ended up just really falling in love with, I guess I drank the Kool-Aid, I guess, as you can say. Like, the economy was going well back then. It's been just rip-roaring since then. And I fell in love with the desert. It was great to be around family members. I had a really great group of friends, and Utah just has a lot to offer. And so it's truly become home to me.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly.
Awesome. Utah, home, unexpectedly, right? That's super cool. And so now you're currently working at Salt Lake City for the city of Salt Lake.
I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing exactly? You know, a lot of times people hear municipal work, they hear local government, and it's far-fetched. It's like, what is that? What do they do there? And so for Salt Lake City, what do you do?
So the city, for the first time, is focused on a specific industry as a pillar, like an anchor for its economic development strategy. And Mayor Mendenhall recognized the pipeline coming from the University of Utah, the economic impacts of biotech. So high wage jobs, recession proof, lots of entry points for people that want to get into jobs where that's kind of, manufacturing. They wanted to maybe be a lab tech. They do a 2-year program, or advanced degrees, on up from the universities within the region. And so those factors played a pivotal role in the mayor kind of crafting her economic strategy around healthcare innovation, life sciences. Mm-hmm. And I just got really lucky in the fact that my experience at the state was focused on those things. And so she has a Tech Lake City initiative where essentially she's saying, we want to see tech jobs find their place downtown, and we want to be really intentional about how we want to grow this community and this ecosystem. We've got the infrastructure, we have kind of the arts and culture within the city, we have the access to transportation, the airport and everything. And so it was just time for the capital city to kind of step up and mature and lean in on what we already had going on, and to recognize some of the gaps. Because when you think of Silicon Slopes, most people within the region think of Lehigh, and that's great. And there's a ton of activity here. Mm-hmm. We want to make the case that there's also a really great place to grow your business in Salt Lake City. So Tech Lake City is kind of the term that we're using for that, and healthcare innovation is our first focus in kind of executing on that plan.
Awesome. And this might be a little granular, but what is the strategy from a healthcare? Like what are some of the things that you all are deploying for that to have that come to fruition?
So we're working right now on a blueprint document with the KMC Gardner Policy Institute that's going to be debuted here really soon. That's going to be kind of showcasing the work that we're in the process of doing, mm-hmm. and kind of what we're going to be focusing on for years to come. So currently we're in the process of changing zoning laws, and we're working with the planning division within the city to take a look and see, okay, where do we want research and development? Where do we want lab space? Where do we want kind of technology-focused companies to find a home within the city? Because right now things are a little outdated, and we're working against ourselves in finding a home. So there's that element. We're working with Salt Lake School District and the foundation there to create workforce development kind of pathways. And the mayor is really interested in developing apprenticeships, and we want to get the healthcare innovation industry in the classroom and being mentors. Essentially, everything that we're doing is we're kind of doing the traditional economic development route, but the main focus is human focus. So we want to make sure that we're giving opportunities to all residents within the city to help them understand where the opportunities are within tech, specifically healthcare innovation, because of those attributes that I talked about earlier: high wages, recession proof, lots of entry points. Mm-hmm. And so we're leaning in on trying to make sure that there's an equitable way of growing and a sustainable way of growing, and there's just not a better industry to pick, and that's why we're leaning in on it.
Well, one, I think it's awesome what you all are doing. As you all know, this Poly platform, we're an engagement platform. And so one of the biggest things that we try to offer is we want residents, we want constituents to know what they don't know. And so one of the initiatives that you touched on is bringing that to their mind, so they can understand what's out there, so they can make better decisions. And so I think that's super cool.
Awareness is half the battle sometimes.
Right.
In fact, that's kind of led to one of the first initiatives that the mayor has partnered with a lot of other community groups. And so I'm glad you touched on that, because your platform obviously is working on that, and then we're using some other mechanisms. We're working with Bio Utah. Okay. EDC Utah, World Trade Center Utah, the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, because they changed the name. So we're not supposed to refer to them as GoEd anymore. It's Go Utah.
Awesome.
So wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
Working with the Pivot Center at the University of Utah, which is their tech transfer office, and a few other community leaders and companies. And essentially what we're doing is saying, we need to raise the awareness of this specific industry. And so we came up with this organization called the BioHive, which is connected to Bio Utah, and essentially is telling in our own backyard the residents and community members that there's a lot going on within this industry. And once we can kind of do that, we can see ourselves within that space, then we can take that message out, and we can kind of start filling some of the gaps in elevating that industry even more.
Right. Wow, that's super cool, and it seems like there's a good strategy with that. And so, I try to be real with all this stuff. And so, Clark, what is the biggest difficulty? What are you
Cool.
finding? What roadblocks are you running into?
Everyone rolls their eyes when they think of government and think, oh, it's bureaucratic and there's, the processes are archaic. And that's true. I
Yeah.
mean, I've worked at state government and I've worked, now in city government. There are things in government that just have to be changed in order to tap into the full potential and for communities and regions to really just truly see their full worth.
Yeah.
The most frustrating thing for me, and I'll say this, like Utah punches above its weight as far as a state that's efficient and
Right.
gets stuff done and has programs. The city as well. But I would say the thing that is the hardest is just making sure that all these different groups and all these different departments within a city are rowing in the same direction. And that's the same with different, elements with the state, getting the legislature to buy in and see the value of what a program is doing at GoEd or, some other, part of the state. And just making sure there's that connectivity. And even though we're really good in Utah at collaborating,
Right.
there's always room for improvement in a way to kind of elevate it to the next level.
That's super. That's amazing. So, where do you see Salt Lake City in the next 10, 15 years?
I think you're going to see this trajectory to continue to grow. There's not a whole lot that's slowing the region and specifically the city from being even more embedded in the technology community. We're growing like crazy. You drive downtown, you can see cranes everywhere. I just got a tour of the new convention center hotel that's on track to finish on time. It's really kind of filling a large void that the city's had with its convention center. There's all sorts of multifamily units and high rises, and even through a pandemic where everyone's like, well, what's going on with commercial space? There's more commercial space being created, and with all of that. It's a pretty exciting, time to be with, in the state and in the capital city, and even just on the Wasatch Front. So, you'll see the city continue to grow. With that, there'll be growing pains, but also we're really focused on solving those problems that come with growth. Whether it's homelessness, affordable housing. There's some really innovative programs that are in the works right now that I think are really going to do a great job of making sure that we don't, see and have to deal with some of the problems of some of these other major cities around the U.S. I think we're going to truly get ahead of it.
And I think that's important. I go, now that I'm, within the municipal space, I see a lot of times, I don't think people are looking at the infrastructure that you create today is going to be what you're going to be looking at in the future.
Government has a hard time thinking long term. You have these short election cycles that
Right.
do not serve the people all the time. And so long-term planning is tricky.
No, I think but it is tricky, and you're spot on. The checks and balance that we've created is kind of like what, people want to see. What did you do now? What is
Right.
your resume now? And so shifting gears from that, kind of going back. And so, all right, so you're from Canada. You end up going to BYU, Hawaii. You come out here to Utah. Who is Clark? Who is Clark Cahoon?
you're getting
I know,
existential.
yeah, I know, right? Who are you?
Oh man, you're asking me like at the wildest time of my life, where there's like so many changes and a pandemic, and just things have just gotten pretty raw. Who is Clark?
Mind you all, these questions are straight off the cuff. And so
no
it's
prep
real.
time.
No prep at all. And so, who's Clark?
I'm someone that really appreciates people. I appreciate good programming. I get really motivated and pretty pumped when there can be positive change. And I'm lucky to have a lot of really great people in my life, great family, great friends, and have a job where I get to play a pretty small role in kind of helping shape a community, a city in a pretty unique way. I like to think I'm a community builder. I'm someone that brings people together. I really enjoy convening human beings on a collective goal to work towards something that's going to make the situation, the community better. And overlaid with all that, I really appreciate being outdoors. I love being around friends and family, and if you can combine those two things, it's pretty great. One of the things I love about Utah is the access to the mountains and the desert and being able to explore those. And so I'm someone who's just striving to find balance with all of these kind of elements and aspects in my life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's real. We were supposed to go on a camping trip, but you you kind of,
Woo. It's been a summer. We're gonna make it happen.
We got to make it happen. I think that's awesome, and the reason why I ask that is because I want people to really understand who the person is behind the microphone. And so this is Thursday Thoughts. This is the engagement platform, and so I've been asking a lot of questions. What question do you have for me?
Yeah. Oh, I've got some for you. So you're involved in the community here. I mean, you're working in municipalities across the state and beyond that. What is it with your platform that you've created and founded that excites you the most in the trajectory that you're going right now?
Engagement. We've, for the past couple of years, and I won't say the past couple of years, a lot of these issues that we're seeing today, it's always been there. It's just more overt. And with technology and with the advancement of technology, you can see it now. It's televised, it's on social media, et cetera. And I think the biggest things across the board, like I'm a history buff, right? Did political science at BYU, but loved history. And when I look at a lot of the problems that has happened historically, a lot of the problems that happen now, I mean, a lot of it just comes from, in my opinion, ignorance. I mean, ignorance not in the sense of, this person is completely stupid or whatever it is. It's because we lack the proximity to have dialogue, to learn from others. To learn from others who may have different perspectives. And so I think with technology, you're seeing it, sometimes they talk about that verse side of it where, it's perpetuating echo chambers and things like that. But I think the biggest thing that I see in this tool and what I've seen already is the engagement component, where you can engage with like-minded people, but you can engage with people who you think are not like-minded.
Right.
And I think that mission behind it is something that really excites me. And so I would say that's the biggest thing for that. But I think that as far as, mitigating certain issues that we have, resolving certain issues that we have nationwide, I think in order for that to happen, from a logical flow of things, you have to first be engaged. And so if you want to be politically active, if you want to be active, you have to first be engaged in order to know what you don't know. And so that is what excites me the most.
That's awesome. That's inspiring. I mean, it lines up obviously with awareness and just kind of knowing sometimes the first step and half the battle. And then from there, that interaction and that education and learning, sky's the limit from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Always enjoy these Thursday Thoughts. Enjoy talking from you. I learn from you every time. We actually met with each other about 2-3 months ago.
Goes both ways.
Yeah, thank you. And so this is Thursday Thoughts, Poly Platform, Clark Cahoon. Thank you, you all, and thank you, Clark.
Appreciate it.